Watch this shit. Wow. Oh. Gotta get it right. Gotta get it right. All right. So today I'm gonna go ahead and go over mobility for the hips to allow for better kicking transitions and movement quality. So hold on to your seats. Let's get this thing rolling. So before we go ahead and do that, I know you guys have been wanting me to do more whiteboard stuff, so here we go. Hip mobilization. Now, with the hip mobilization, our objective is to increase functional range of motion with end range control. The way we're gonna do that, we're gonna hit on the focus points of increasing tissue temperature first. We're gonna improve on flexibility, right, or passive range of motion. Then we're gonna go ahead and work on active antagonistic muscles. We're gonna activate those antagonistic muscles by using things like PNF stretching. We're also gonna go ahead and improve on end range mobility by using pails and rails techniques, and I'll go into more detail on that. And then we're finally gonna go ahead and dynamically integrate that in, working on our skills, basically throwing our kicks and being more efficient with that, increasing the speed and power through there. So again, check it out, let's get into it. So first one we're gonna go ahead and do is work on the adductors. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get in a half kneeling position, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get my leg all the way extended, right, and abduct out. From here, I'm gonna get into a passive stretch. So I'm going to stretch the adductors accordingly. Then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna sit back as far as I can, keeping my toes down. And then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and contract the adductors. I'm gonna contract them as hard as I can for about 5 to 6 seconds. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sit back even more. So again, you can start up top, you contract for 5 to 6 seconds, you lean back a little bit more. Again, you contract, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You sit back a little bit more, contract again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And sit back all the way and sit into that passive stretch. You'll hold this for about 30 seconds. Then you'll repeat at the top. Again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit back a little bit further. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit back a little bit further. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then relax and sit into the stretch and hold again for another 30 seconds. Now you'll do 3 rounds of that. It's called PNF stretching. The goal for there is to increase the range of motion of abduction. So we're working on flexibility of the adductors. All right. Now we'll go ahead and we'll go into the hamstring. All right. Now the hamstring, you're going to go ahead and get into whatever base position you want. I'll just go ahead and sit down with my feet and my legs straight out. Again, the goal, you're in hip flexion, chest is tall. I want the toes flexed and I want the feet together. From there, I'm gonna go ahead and get into that end range where I can stay nice and stable, right? I'm not compensating by bending my knees or rounding my back. So I wanna keep a nice neutral spine. My toes are flexed, right? And I'm driving my knees into the floor here, right? Because I do want to make sure that I'm activating the quads to increase the range of motion of the hamstrings. So again, now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to press down into the floor with my hamstrings. 5 seconds, and then I'm going to stretch more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Sit into the stretch. One more time. 5, 4, 3, 2, relax, sit into the stretch. Now I'm gonna hold this position with my chest upright as much as I can. I'm not slouched over, chest upright, because again, we want to lengthen out the spine to allow for that optimal hamstring flexibility to occur without compensation of the low back or the upper back. So I'm keeping that position and I'm driving my chest forward. So I drive my chest forward, I'm gonna hold for 30 seconds, and then I'll come back and repeat that process again. So I'm gonna drive, 3, 2, 1, relax it, and then sit into the stretch. I'm gonna activate my hamstrings again for 6 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit deeper into that stretch. One more time. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and sink deeper into the stretch. And then again, you'll hold that for 30 seconds, 2 to 3 times through. All right, so those are for the hamstrings. All right, so now we're setting up for the couch stretch. Now, obviously I have my foot on the wall, but you could use a couch at home. The goal here again is we're gonna use PNF stretching, or proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. We're gonna go ahead and lightly contract the quad and the hip flexors, and we're gonna push into the wall doing that. And then afterwards, we're gonna go into that stretch where we're just basically gonna go ahead and shift our hips forward, right? So I'm shifting forward, I'm not leaning back, and I'm actually driving my hips to, obviously in a forward fashion. So I'm gonna go ahead and drive my hips forward after I push into the wall for about 5 to 6 seconds. Now, you don't have to go maximal push. You wanna go about 60 to 70%. When we go maximal, we're gonna be doing the pails and rails, and I'll show you in a minute. But we're gonna do this for now. Again, 2 to 3 repetitions through. Again, you also wanna make sure you're passively stretching in that range for about 30 seconds. So we'll go 2 to 3 sets, 30 seconds of stretch, 6 seconds of a contraction. Here we go. So I'm pushing into the wall, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I'm gonna drive my hips forward, increasing the stretch on the quad and hip flexor. I'll go again, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sitting into the stretch, pushing my hips forward, not breaking in the TL junction. I'm locking down my abs here. Again, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit into the stretch and hold for 30 seconds. So again, you're gonna do 2 to 3 reps of that PNF, sit in for 30 seconds, and then do 2 to 3 sets after that on both sides. All right, so now what we're gonna do is called pails and rails, or progressive and regressive angular isometric loading. So now we're gonna use a more intense version of isometrics, a more intense version of PNF. We're gonna activate both sides of the muscle. So we're gonna work the agonist and the antagonist to help increase active and range control and range of motion for true mobility. So with this one, I'm gonna go into a 90-90 position. So external rotation on the front leg, internal rotation on the back leg. And the goal here is to, again, activate abduction, activate adduction, all those muscles that encompass that. And we're gonna gain more range, or we're gonna try to gain more range into external rotation. And then we'll do the same thing for internal rotation. So I'm gonna start off with the front leg. In that external rotation, my knee, right? We want a 90-degree angle on both sides here. So ankle to knee and knee to hip. From there, I'm gonna go ahead and get into a passive end range. So I'm gonna get into a range that I feel the stretch in. Then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and push down actively into the floor. Now I'm gonna ramp up from 50 to 100% because you don't wanna go full on 100% off the bat. Again, that's gonna be a cause for concern. You may increase injury risk. So we're gonna go ahead 50% to start. Remember, I'm pushing from my heel, right? My heel, my ankle, my shin, my knee, and my hip all into the ground at once. 50%, then we'll ramp up to 60, 70, 80. Once we get to 100%, I'm driving as hard as I can without compensation and maintaining this position here with my spine. As I'm driving into the floor, I'm trying to drive my leg down and try to bust through the floor. So I'm 100% effort for 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Automatically after that, I'm gonna go ahead and down regulate that. So I'm gonna go from 100% down to 60, and then I'm gonna do what's called a rails contraction, where I'm gonna drive actively my leg up into abduction, or adduction, I should say. I'm gonna drive that knee up into my chest. I'm gonna use those adductors to drive into my chest here, pulling my knee into my chest as much as I can, and also trying to drive my ankle off the floor. So we just did our pails. Now we're going 80, 70, going into the rails contraction. I'm actually driving into my chest, getting it away from the floor as much as I can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm gonna passively sit deeper into the stretch. Now you'll feel that you automatically have more range because, again, you activated those mechanoreceptors. They were able to down-regulate any type of tight tissue because you told the body that your body is strong in that position. It's okay to go further. So I'm back down, I'm going deeper into the stretch, and then you'll do another set. So we'll do 2 sets of pails and rails for the externally rotated leg. Again, you wanna ramp up from 50 to 60%, all the way up to 100%. Then you'll back it down to 60%, going up into the rails contraction for about 5 to 10 seconds long. Do that for 2 sets through, and then you switch over to the internally rotated leg. Now with the internally rotated leg, I'm gonna sit this way, I'm gonna face my knee. I'm gonna go ahead, place my hands here for stability, so I'm not moving at all. I'm planting myself down in a passive stretch. So again, I'm gonna take my leg, make sure it's a 90-degree angle from the knee to hip, 90-degree angle from the knee to ankle. Then from there, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna lean as far as I can without rounding or without crunching here. Up tall, same concept. I'm gonna drive my leg into the floor for that pails contraction. So again, going up in percentage, all the way to 100 for 10 seconds. Then I'm gonna back off 80, 70, 60. From there, I'm gonna try to drive up using all of those abductors, those external rotators. I'm gonna drive up as much as I can. 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I'm gonna slowly relax and sit deeper into the stretch. Again, 2 sets through on both sides. You wanna make sure that you are doing it safely and properly, so if you do find yourself getting a cramp, that's usually an indication that the muscle is weak and we have to work it a little bit more regressed, but again, you still wanna work it. So usually when you're going through ranges of motion also, you wanna see how fast you go through these ranges of motion. If I go through them fast, that's usually meaning that I don't have control there. So I wanna make sure that I activate those muscles and I work through those ranges to gain control, and I gain that flow movement patterns to allow me to do more higher dynamic movements going further when you're throwing your kicks, all right? So we switch legs and then you do it again, but now let's say the internally rotated leg becomes the externally rotated leg and vice versa. 2 sets through pails and rails contraction. All right, you're gonna do that after you do your PNF stretching. All right, now we're getting higher into those forms of mobility training as opposed to flexibility. All right, that's gonna increase the active end range control. That's gonna increase your contractibility of those muscles that need be to allow for that movement to occur more dynamically. So let's get on to the more dynamic movement patterns now that are going to increase the control and the end range and active end range of each movement pattern that's going to allow you to produce those kicks efficiently. All right, so now what we're gonna do is called an ISO movement prep, and this is going to enhance dynamic movement patterns and allow you to work and floss the joint accordingly based upon the position. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off in a bear sit position. Now, again, I wanna create nice neutral spine, good posture here, and I'm gonna make sure my feet stay the same. A lot of times when guys go through these flow movements, they start to move their feet and change that pressure gradient and change the positioning. We don't want that. We wanna stabilize the body in those end ranges and then work through the joint like a true joint. So I'm gonna lock down the end ranges so I don't allow for compensation to occur. Chest is tall, I'm gonna start off in the bear sit, then I'm gonna go ahead and flow into 90-90, just like we did in the past. All right, so we worked on pails and rails contraction with 90-90, now we're going ISO MPs in a 90-90 to bear sit position. This is going to allow you to open up your hips and be able to produce force from internal and external rotation. It's gonna be very key when you're talking about movements and kicks with Taekwondo and Muay Thai. Here we go. From here, I'm gonna drive one knee down into the ground, external rotation. This side's gonna come internal rotation. And we're gonna sit into that 90-90 again. From there, I'm gonna go ahead and open into external rotation, drive all the way out as far as I can. Then when I can't get any further, I'm gonna go ahead and start opening up and closing this one down. As I close this one down, I'm able to open this one up more. Drive this knee into the floor, in range, and then I start to close this angle down. Boom, squeezing my glute, and I'm also activating the antagonistic muscle. So from there, I'm gonna open. I'm still putting pressure into the floor. I open as far as I can. Again, I'm not trying to move my feet out like this. I'm staying stable. I'm opening up. I close that angle down as I go to flow to the other side. Boom, full into 90-90 again. These ISO-MPs you will do 2 sets through. So I'll go one side, then the other, that's 1, then back again. One side, then the other, that's 2. All right, now we'll flow into some other movements to help with dynamic correspondence and also increasing contractibility and overall proprioception throughout space. Let's get into it. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and still flow through the entire movement. We're still doing ISO-MP, 90-90 to bear sit now into a swing through lunge. So again, we're still working flow, but the goal here is to start to increase your proprioception, start to increase your coordination, and also work on those muscles that need to be stable and also need to be mobile from a hip joint perspective to allow for those kicks to occur. So we're activating the muscle to allow for range of motion in the joint capsule itself, to allow for those higher movements and high dynamic movements that you're gonna do when you're creating force with your kicks. So again, we'll start off on the bear sit. Right from there, I'm gonna drive down. I'm gonna go close the angle down now. This is after your 2 sets through. You're gonna go ahead and flow into this 90-90 position. From there, I'm gonna bring my heels together closer to midline. And then from there, I'm gonna drive up and do what's called a shin box get up. So I'm gonna drive through, boom, full hip extension now, right? Full hip extension and internal and external rotation. I'm gonna swing my leg through, right? Getting into a lunge position. So as I get up, it's gonna be dynamic, but I also need to be in control. So my core has to be activated. So I'm controlling my core, controlling my trunk. I swing through, tuck the toe in, lats are on, everything is tight in the midsection. Then I'm gonna drive up into a lunge, holding, squeezing the adductors, squeezing the glute on the back side. I come back down controlled, tuck the toe in. As I go to swing through, I'm gonna internally rotate, right, this leg, and I'm gonna externally rotate the bottom leg. So I turn, and I control that sit back and hold position. We'll do that 2 times through. So again, we're back into the bear sit. We close the angle, pull the heels, shin box get up, punch, toes into the floor, come up, hold position, squeeze the glute, back down, tuck the toe, then slide, slow and controlled, back down. Again, 2 times through on each side. All right, so now that we enhanced our movement quality and we increased the stability and strength in the muscles, along with gaining mobility of the joint capsule, now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a basic movement that I do for warm-ups and also to increase that range of motion from abduction, external rotation, and then also activating the adductors. So for this one, it's gonna be a glute bridge, but we're gonna throw in a leg whip. So you're gonna go out to the side and then bring it back in. The goal here is to create proximal stiffness. Proximal stability will increase distal mobility. It's the same concept that Stuart McGill talks about. You guys don't know that guy, go ahead and check him out, Dr. Stuart McGill. A spine specialist that I take high regard to, and I also go into deep detail on how the benefits of what he does trickles over into combat sports on my other podcasts and on my YouTube channel. So make sure you check him out. But what we're gonna do today is the same concept that he utilizes when he's talking about increasing spine mechanics and also movement quality. I'm doing the same concept, but now I'm gonna place myself on the floor and I'm gonna get into a glute bridge or hip bridge position. I'm gonna activate my glutes on one side, and then I'm gonna be mobile on the hip that is free, that is not connected to the floor. So I'm in an open chain on the free side where I'm working on mobility, and I'm in a closed chain to increase the strength on that other side. The goal again is we want proximal stiffness. We do not want any compensation in the trunk itself. So here's how it looks. I'm gonna get up into that bridge position, right? All 3 points of contact, big toe, little toe, and heel is on the floor. I'm squeezing my glute, right? I'm gonna take my chin, I'm gonna tuck it down. Move this out the way. I'm gonna tuck it down so my spine is neutral throughout the entire body. From there, I'm gonna go ahead, get into knee extension, and then hip flexion. After that, I'm gonna tighten up my lats, brace my core, and then I'm gonna come out to the side as far as I can without dropping my hip. So I'm staying balanced, I'm opening up the hip, and then I'm bringing it back in. Again, I'm not bent with my knee, I'm keeping everything flexed, my quads are flexed to stretch out the hamstring, I'm flexing my feet, dorsiflexion, stretch out the calf, and then I'm opening up and then driving through. Again. All right. For this, you want to do about 3 to 5 repetitions on both sides. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and increase the dynamic movement, going faster dynamics. And now we're going to stand up on our feet because that's where we're going to be throwing our kicks. That's where you're going to be doing most of your kicking anyways, right? Unless you're an MMA guy and you're doing up kicks. But for the most part, what the goal is to increase range of motion of the hips to allow for these kicks to occur. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to go into hip flexion, knee flexion. I'm going to pull up into a passive range and then I'm going to hold, right? It's called an end range liftoff. I'm going to stay in a neutral position. The other leg is going to stabilize my body. So I'm expanding and I'm lengthening up the hip flexors, squeezing my glute on the far side while I'm flexing the hip flexor on the other side. So here we go. Feet is in the ground, glutes on, leg is locked in. I'm going to pull to passive end range. I'm going to create tension and then I'm going to let go, holding position. From there, I'm going to go ahead and step forward into a lunge. I lunge forward. Now I'm in hip extension fully, and I'm in hip flexion fully here. From there, I'm gonna go ahead and drive up into that lunge, and then I'm gonna go into an RDL position with my hands out, called an RDL airplane. We're gonna airplane and hold. You'll hold position. Then from there, I swing up, knee flexion, and repeat the process. Come down, hold position. Locked in, lean forward, hip airplane. Flexion, hold again. Lunge, lean forward. Balance, control. Hold, lunge. Squeeze, adductors are on, lean forward. Drive, hold. And repeat the process. You're gonna do 3 repetitions on each leg. So now we're gonna go ahead and work through faster dynamics. So first one I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and open up my hips. So we're gonna go into external rotation. I'm gonna drive my knee up and out, and I'm gonna walk forward. So as I come up, I'm opening out, out, out. Notice I'm not turning with my upper body or my chest, right? I'm trying to stay neutral here. I'm driving up, rotate, rotate, step forward, rotate, step forward, rotate, out, 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 okay? Now you can do this for about 10 yards through. Now that I went 10 yards, I gotta go 10 yards back. So I'm gonna start in external rotation and I'm gonna bring it into that adduction and internal rotation. So I start here, neutral spine, boom, step back, boom, step back, boom. So every time I go to bring it forward, I'm stepping back with that same leg. So I open and close, step back. Open, close, step back. Open, close, step back. Open, close, step back. 10 yards down, 10 yards back. So this one's simple. We're just gonna go ahead and finish it off with some toe touches. Now we're swinging our leg up, right? You want knee extension and you want hip flexion. So opposite arm, opposite leg. You're just gonna step, swing and touch. Step, swing and touch. Step, swing and touch. Staying upright, step, swing and touch. Step, swing and touch. Okay? When you come back, you can make it a little bit more dynamic. Do a switch step. So I'm here, switch step, touch. Switch step, touch. Switch step, touch. 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 All the way through. All right? That finishes it off. Right from there, you can start working on your kicks, start working on your pad work. Go ahead and spar. This is usually something that I would do when we're doing some type of lower body strength work too as well. or we're doing some type of conditioning at the track, or if we're doing any type of low-level plyometrics. So again, multi-versatile when you're talking about increasing range of motion and mobility of the hips and flexibility of the muscles to allow for that range and that dynamic movement to occur. Also, you want to make sure that you're not spending too much time, I have to re-emphasize, spending too much time on the foam roller. Again, you want to get 5 repetitions on each side, just so that you can bring down any type of soreness or just down-regulate those nociceptors or those pain receptors like I talked about. Then you want to work your way into flexibility, increasing mobility, increasing stability and strength in the muscles, and then work dynamically with the new range that you have. So again, if you like this video, show me some love, hit the like button. If you want to learn more about this stuff, you can check out my coaching online mentorship course. I have over 400 coaches from around the world. We are learning each day. You'll get access for life. So check it out, link in the description down below. I hope to see you there. Also, if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. If you're new to my channel, I'm trying to build the channel as much as possible. I show all love to everybody. So hit the comments down below if you want me to answer any of your questions. Hit hashtag Daru Strong if you just want to show me some love. Make sure you hit the notification if you already are subscribed so you know when my videos come out. I'm trying to produce at least 3 videos a week. So be on the lookout, and I'll see you again next time. Peace.